guys, welcome back to the Film Grinders podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Hauka, here with David Hollinshead. Dave, another weekend of football for 3 straight days. Gotta love it. Saturday, Sunday, and I guess Monday is technically the start of the week, but for those in the States, a holiday, Martin Luther King Day. Us in Canada not getting that holiday, but we watched the national championship nonetheless. Before we get started and talk about pro ball here, Dave, talk a little bit about college football. A, do you enjoy watching college as much as the pro game? And B, what were your thoughts on the national championship game as Indiana with a historic win on Monday night?
Yeah, I love watching any flavor of football. I think me and you are pretty much lockstep in that. We'll watch the NFL, we'll watch CFL, we'll watch college, we'll watch junior. We don't give a toot. We just want to watch good old-fashioned pigskin throwing. As for college football, I'm a big Cal Bears fan. That's kind of my NCAA school. So when we had Fernando Mendoza, he was a lot of fun to watch. And, sucks that he went to Indiana. Obviously, it worked out for us. We got a 5-star freshman who just absolutely lit it up this year, but whatever. Mendoza goes to Indiana. Indiana obviously wins the national championship. They are not a program that has ever been really nationally relevant until, what would you say, like maybe the past 3 years, maybe when Curtis Rourke got there and started really putting them on the map. But damn, you know what? I guess that's the new era of college football with the NIL money, that these teams can build up their program quick like that and then win a natty, and congrats to them. Like, they deserved it.
Yeah, not even nationally relevant, not even okay until last year, really. It's amazing what Cignetti has been able to do with this program and the turnaround. It's pretty reminiscent of, I know a lot of people are college football fans for the video game. It's kind of when you take over the worst program possible and build them into a power, right? I like to do that with the Akron Zips myself. But you've always kind of thought that's a fever dream, and what Kirk Cignetti has done is incredible, unprecedented, and history was made yesterday, that's for sure. Even as an Oregon fan, as Indiana walked all over them, pretty painful loss to watch. Very commendable what they did, and a little bit of me was cheering for them despite the devastating loss, because it was clear they were the better team. So, in both games. But yeah, we'll move on to the pro game here. Lots to go through, Dave. Lots of headlines here. We'll start with our weekly headlines. Start off with probably the most shocking news of 2026 in football so far this year. Sean McDermott let go, and as he is let go, General Manager Brandon Beane elevated to President of Football Ops, as well as retaining his position of GM. Dave, how surprised are you at this firing and then elevation?
Yeah, I was pretty shocked, honestly. I thought that if anything, those things should have been reversed. I thought McDermott has made chicken salad out of chicken shit, which has been your favorite phrase of forever. And I feel like the roster just has not been great. And who has to pay for that? It has to be the GM, in my opinion. And the coach can only do what you give him. And with Josh Allen, I feel like they've been playoff relevant. They've been in a window for a while, and they've been pushing. They've won the division the past few years here. I do kind of understand it from a Bills ownership perspective. You do have Josh Allen. You have him in his prime. No one knows how long primes can last. It can be taken away from you like that. If you're not going to get over the hump, you got to find a way. And if McDermott's not the guy in your eyes, then you got to find the guy who is. What surprises me about it is that we've kind of talked about how this coaching carousel class isn't super inspiring. There's no Ben Johnson to be the gold medal that you go and get, right? The big name you go and get. It's just a lot of kind of recycled names. So I'm not sure who they're going to get to replace them. That's going to fare much better.
Yeah, that was exactly my thought process too, Dave, is number one, okay, so look at the way Brandon Beane has drafted over the last couple of years. the last like 4 to 5 years. He's drafted 2 Pro Bowlers in his time as GM of the Buffalo Bills. And again, like Pro Bowl, the Pro Bowl is kind of a weird thing, but it's even easier to get into the Pro Bowl now. So you're seeing that the quality of player he's drafting is not overly high. He's finding, I would say, B players when he could find A to A plus players in those same spots. So I don't agree with him being elevated. And I think, again, if you look at the product on the field, Sean McDermott was doing a great job with what he had given to him. If you look at the delegation of roles in pro sports, right, it's the general manager's job to acquire the talent, then it's the coach's job to maximize the talent. I don't think you can say Sean McDermott didn't maximize the talent that he had. He has a bunch of aging defensive backs. Trev White is absolutely ancient. He comes back to the team and is a viable player, right? You had to bring in safeties like Jordan Poyer, who 5 years ago was quite the player, now is old, long in the tooth, and is not the same player. And McDermott did a great job maximizing that talent and honestly giving the Broncos a lot of difficulties. They also just beat the Jaguars a week prior, who were far more talented a team than the Bills. So I don't understand this. And as you said in your last point, which is a very, very good point, who are you bringing in that's going to do better than McDermott? McDermott gives you a stable presence on the defensive side of the ball. But even being a defensive coach, he's not ultra conservative. We saw it in the game, and we'll talk more about it, with what was it, like 20 seconds left in the half? He gave Joe Brady and his offense the go-ahead to go try to score points. Not his fault Josh Allen uncharacteristically carried the ball like a loaf of bread and fumbled. That's purely on Josh Allen. We'll talk about that more later. But he does things that puts his team in position to win week after week after week, has not been dealt a good hand talent-wise, and probably hasn't had an overly talented roster since, 2022, I would say. And even then, it wasn't an A-plus roster. It wasn't what the Chiefs had at one time, right? So I don't think this is fair to him. I think he's done a great job, and I think it's ridiculous that he got fired. I think it's vastly unfair. And if for whatever reason you think he's not the answer, certainly don't think Brandon Beane is the answer. Because he has shown with this roster, look at this receiving core right now. You want to talk about Josh Allen being in his prime? The dude's top target is an ancient Brandon Cooks. This was 2015. You'd be like, nice, okay, that's a good 1B. This is 2025, 2026. What are we doing? Not acceptable in my eyes. I hate it. I don't know what we're doing here in Buffalo.
No. I honestly think that the guy who's going to fill it, and this is just me speculating, is probably going to be Brian Dable. Has familiarity with Josh Allen, kind of made Josh Allen who he is. That's probably the guy I'm looking at, but if it's not him, then who?
Yeah, exactly. Like I heard maybe Joe Brady gets elevated, and I can see that. I think he's actually done quite a good job with this offense, considering he has 2 weapons, a good running back, and Josh Allen, obviously, and then a pretty solid offensive line. They're not bad at all, but you have no weapons, right? So, yeah, I don't get it. Don't know what they're doing there. That might come back to haunt them, in my opinion, but we will see. Moving on to a more rational move. Another defensive mind, rather than being fired, actually gets hired. Robert Saleh to the Tennessee Titans. I think with the options the Titans had, I think this is a pretty good choice for them, Dave. Robert Saleh is a good defensive mind if he can find an adequate offensive coordinator to work with Cam Ward. Titans could be in a good spot. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Out of the list of coaches that were going after their second chance, you only really get 2 chances to be a head coach in the NFL, right? So history has kind of shown. So out of the guys that they were looking at, I think Saleh is probably one of the better picks. He goes to New York, and New York is just kind of a clusterfuck of a franchise, and we've seen that over the past 100 years since old Joe Namath decided to hang up those cleats. It's just not been great. So I think he deserved to get a second chance. Tennessee's not exactly a great franchise either, but hopefully he can put it back together. They have been relevant in the past 10 years. So No, all the power to him. I think this was a pretty good hire.
Yeah, and they have some weapons defensively. They obviously have Jeffrey Simmons still, who is an absolute dog in the middle. No one talks about him because Tennessee is so bad, but he is probably a top 5 player in the interior defensive line. I think you could make the argument for top 2. Actually, he's pretty disruptive. They have some weapons in the secondary as well. And you have Cam Ward, right? So if you can, in free agency in the draft, add some weapons with him, I'm a big believer of Cam Ward. I think he couldn't find his quarterback in New York. I think he has his quarterback. You just got to build around him. Hopefully, him and the GM can get on the same page. And I think he did an incredible job with the Niners this year. Down to essentially having your whole defensive line hurt. Your whole linebacking core was hurt. You had a 6th and 7th linebacker in with linebacker off the street, who we talked about last week, who was very good in like 2018, 2019. But again, 5 to 6 years later, not quite the same player. And winning a playoff game against a much more talented team. So he can elevate defenses. Can he figure out the offensive thing? I like to think in New York, it was more an issue of not having the quarterback rather than not being able to have a staff that can have a talented offense or adequate offense at best. So we will see him moving forward, but I think this is a good hire. I'm going to say this is a good hire. Interesting hire by the Miami Dolphins. Jeff Hafley, Packers DC, hired as a head coach. Dave, do we feel like maybe we went from McDaniel, an out there offensive mind, to maybe an overcorrection here in Hafley?
I I don't know how I feel about this hire. I feel like you're is Miami as an organization like you're either going to get to a right or you're going to get to a out. I'm not sure a defensive mind figures that out, but I don't know Halfley all that too well. I'm sure that you have more opinions on him. It kind of feels lukewarm to me. It doesn't feel like a big jump forward back. I don't. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he has a little bit of head coach experience, 3 years at Boston College,
Mm-hmm.
none in the pros, which again, like I don't look too much into.
Yeah.
I think as a coordinator, he did a good job in Green Bay. Um, they don't never did anything too crazy. I thought he did a good job of using Micah Parsons as a weapon when he had him, but schematically, otherwise, it's sound. He doesn't do anything too crazy. He doesn't really reinvent the wheel, but it sounds, so that's fine. Kind of a hire where I feel like you can't get mad at it, but I don't think you're overly excited, if
Yeah,
that
typically when you see
makes
first time
sense.
head coaches like get promoted from the coordinator position, there's like this huge hype about them. You think about like Ben Johnson, you think about when Mike Vrabel first got hired with Tennessee, it was like this even when Mike McDaniel got hired, it was Sean McVay too. It was like, yo, this is the guy you got to go get. This is the great upcoming mind that revolutionized the game and on that side of the ball, and now he's ready to take on a head coach. This didn't have the hype around it. I didn't remember too much like, oh, we got to go get Halfley. Like Halfley's the next guy, and then he gets hired, and I'm like, who the fuck is this? There was no hype built around him. There was nothing in the news cycle that was like, oh, this is the next guy we got to go get. And very exciting. So it just kind of feels like a very lukewarm, boring hire.
Yeah, I would agree. I do really wonder if after the Mike McDaniel era, they were maybe looking for some stability, someone maybe boring, even. Not to say Halfley's boring, but just kind of a steady Eddie hire, maybe is a better wording of that. And I guess that's what Halfley brings to the table for them potentially. Again, we'll see how it goes. He had 3 years of a head coach in college, so he does have some experience. Um, yeah, we will see moving forward. Uh, here's a hire where you go, yes, this makes sense. John Harbaugh, New York Giants. Feels like the Giants get the best coach on the board available, other than maybe Mike Tomlin. Um, Harbaugh comes over and hopefully can get the Giants going in the right direction after a lack of relevance over the last however long.
Since Eli Manning basically left.
Yep.
But yeah, I'd agree. We kind of said it in our last video where Harbaugh did get fired. Like this has been a team, like the Ravens have been a team that had been relevant for 20 some odd years. Like they won a Super Bowl in that time with Joe Flacco, and they've always kind of been there. Like you can talk about how his teams like to choke in the fourth quarter and choke in the playoffs, but they're a team that was at the very least always stable. They were always in the winning column. They've dominated the division basically over the past however 20 some odd years. Um, and he brings like a sort of credibility to the position. Like there's no, we kind of said there wasn't a lot of great hires, and this is kind of the best guy you could go get. And if you're New York, especially the Giants, you're looking for any kind of stability, any kind of dignity to bring yourselves back up and raise that floor. You got a young QB, you got young receivers, you got a young running back in Cam Scadaboo. Defense, you got some pieces there to build around, and I think this is just a great first step for the Giants to get back on top of the mountain.
Yeah, and regardless of like those blown leads and falling apart late in games, I think at worst, if you're a Giants fan, you would much rather have your team relevant with a chance and maybe the chance of that happening than what you have now, right? You've had one playoff appearance in the last 10 years, I believe, because I think the last time they made it with Eli was like 20, maybe it was like 2017. So
Still close to
two in the last 10 years, let's say,
sure.
right? Still pretty terrible. I think you would much rather have Harbaugh at the helm, getting you there consistently. Even at his worst, the floor has raised exponentially for you. And I think this will be a hire the Giants look back on fondly as the years progress, even if you get the floor, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, Another interesting hire, Kevin Stefanski to the Falcons, Dave. Um, can Stefanski possibly help Michael Penix?
Possibly, and I'm sure that's how he marketed himself. But in his body of work as a head coach in Cleveland, what QBs has he helped develop or elevate their play? I would say none. Maybe I'm being disrespectful. I don't mean to be, but nothing's coming out right off the top of my head. You had Baker Mayfield, and that didn't work out for you. And then you went through a carousel, a cornucopia of starting quarterbacks, and none of them panned out. And eventually you got to look at the head coach. The offense was never elite. He likes to pin himself as this great offensive mind. But really, I think he's just a Mike McCarthy Jr. and just a boring West Coast old school kind of guy. I don't like him. I don't like his scheme. I don't like the hire.
Wow. Didn't know you felt that strongly about him. I actually
I
had no
don't
idea.
like Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're kind of in a tough spot, right? Like, there's not a lot of, as we just talked about, hot candidates. I don't think he's a terrible hire. I don't think he's a great hire. I also kind of think who else would you hire that's available? Like maybe a Mike Tomlin would have been a good choice, but they just tried the defensive head coach thing and say what you will. I almost feel like with the candidates, I don't know if there's much of a point of firing Raheem Morris because I don't really think Stefanski is much of an upgrade, if an upgrade at all. So maybe they're really trying to like, we need the offensive mind to help Michael Penix because we think he still has something. I think Penix can be a solid NFL QB. Again, we hated the offensive scheme that we saw, so again, we'll see moving forward. But I don't.
But I feel like if you were going to go that route and you wanted a guy that would go all in on Penix and develop him, you would go for a Brian Dable. Like, sure, his last couple of years in New York were, oof. But he has won Coach of the Year. He developed a Josh Allen. He looked, Jackson Dart under his 1 year with him looked pretty decent. So, I mean, like, is that
Yeah.
at least he has something on his resume of being like, okay, he's
Well,
developed.
hey, Stefanski has 2 Coach of the Years to his name.
Does he?
Yeah,
What a joke. Hold on.
he does.
I believe you. I'm just. Why?
Yeah, 2-time Coach of the Year.
Jesus fucking Christ. Good for him, I guess. Must have been a weak class or a weak year for that.
Yeah, I mean, past is the past. I don't know. Like, I personally don't hate it. I personally, again, am not excited by the hire at all.
No,
Um, prove us wrong, Kevin. Prove us wrong.
I would love to see it.
Uh, that'll do it for weekly headlines with the Coach Carousel. We'll continue to follow that moving forward, but we'll go on to the games now. And I know they've been talked about ad nauseum already, but we will continue. And we will go to the first game of the week that was witnessed, a good one between the Bills and Broncos. A little bit of a weird one. Josh Allen, a couple of very uncharacteristic turnovers, which actually ultimately kind of come back to haunt the Bills as they lose in overtime. Dave, what did you think about this one?
Well, I think that even despite throwing or turning the ball over so many times, and with the one very controversial interception that I wonder if we have the same opinion on, but we can get to that in a second. The fact that Josh Allen was still able to will them forward, score that many points, and push them into overtime is just a testament to him as a player and why I don't think McDermott should have been fired, that they can overcome that kind of thing and still be in a game like this.
Yeah.
I mean, we predicted this, right? We predicted that Denver would move forward over Buffalo. I think there's 2 big takeaways that I have from this game, and that's number one, McDermott shouldn't have been fired, and we've kind of already talked. We've already talked about that. And 2 is Bo Nix breaking his ankle on the second last play of the game on a play that I thought was a terrible call, just in general. Having your QB have a sprint left with no routes there, I didn't like it at all. You're putting this is why I don't like running my QB all that much and putting him in harm's way like this, is because of this. Then I know you're trying to empty the tank and just throw everything at the board to get the win to move forward. But now what? Now you put him in harm's way. This is the worst case scenario. You're down your QB, and now you have Jared Stidham. This isn't the 14-3 Broncos playing the Patriots next week. It's the Jared Stidham Broncos.
Yeah.
So I just
I
big question marks there.
Yeah, I didn't like the call either because I feel like Bo is a really good extender with his legs, but he's not a good designed quarterback run guy. I mean, I watched him for 2 years at Oregon, and he wasn't that in college. He was very much a pocket passer who can run when he is needed to, and he can extend plays, but he's not a designed quarterback runner. And yeah, that quarterback counter, I didn't like when it happened. As it happened, I thought to myself, and I think I said out loud, why? Why
What?
are we doing that? Just not, I didn't like really the call, and it's really unfortunate that happened. Um, feel really bad for him, right? Like he's done everything to get to this point and has had a really solid year. It's been a little up and down, but he's done what he's needed to get to this point, and to have that kind of taken away from you is very unfortunate. Speaking on Josh Allen, a couple things with him. I saw a lot of people like shitting on him online for his performances. Like, guys, I know he made some bonehead plays. Other than those bonehead plays, he was unreal. Like, he was so good. He has nothing to work with in his receiving core and was making some big boy throws all game long, like he always does. It was just a couple uncharacteristic mistakes that led to a loss, and it's unfortunate. As far as the interception goes, uh, by the letter of the law, that is an interception. Um, Even Joe Burrow came out and said, guys, like, I don't understand this. He tweeted and he said, there were those 2 calls everyone's complaining about were very simple calls and they made the right choice. I would agree personally. Um, I think the problem was the process. Why are you not reviewing it? in overtime. And I think I heard them talk about, oh, we're trying to speed the process of a game along. It's a playoff game. This isn't week 5 in a game between 2 1-4 teams. It's the freaking divisional playoffs. Take the extra time. We're already in overtime. No one's gonna. If someone complains about that, who cares? Like, make sure the call's right, and I think they did make it, but I think it's bad process to not do that and take an extra look at such a crucial moment of the game. And then there have been some discrepancies, and I think with officiating right now in general, the calls aren't consistent, right? Like, and then you can talk about the pass interference call. I do ultimately think that was pass interference on Trey White, but I think in a game where they weren't calling anything all game to make, there was the Teron Johnson call and then that call. I just, like, you have to stay consistent to what you've been doing, right? I think before that interception as well, there was a holding call not called in the end zone. The game should have been over on a safety call. And just because you don't want the game to end on that, yeah, there's just, officiating has been really weird. Even rule analysts aren't agreeing with officials, which is kind of unheard of. So that needs to be addressed for sure. I just think it's the process of how things occurred there, and the inconsistency that's happening with calls like that is quite troubling for fans to grapple with. So I think there needs to be something done there, but I do think they got that call right. I don't know. What do you think about it, Dave?
I would agree with it. In the big picture, everything you just kind of said. I think officiating has been terrible for the past and inconsistent for the past, I don't know how long. And you as a person know how I feel about 99% of officiating. Just run the game, manage the game, don't make the game about you, don't decide the game yourself. As for the interception, I kind of lean towards it being a catch by the definition of just what I've learned from the NFL ruling of a catch. I thought he had possession, he had contact on the ground, he had both legs on the ground with possession, and the ball was kind of ripped away from him after the fact. That's kind of my interpretation. I'm not like up in arms about it, throwing a tantrum. I understand both sides. But to me personally, I kind of watched that and I lean towards it being a catch. But I can be convinced otherwise. I'm not pounding the table about it. It's just my interpretation of watching the NFL for so long in deciding what that is. But I'm an offensive fan.
I think for me, like, I don't think he had full possession, and then as he contacted the ground, he didn't survive possession of the ball, and it kind of like bounces up, and then he kind of is recatching it as it's ripped away from him. So to me, that's a pick. But sure, again, like, I could have seen it going either way too, personally. If it had been ruled the other way, I probably wouldn't have been too up in arms about it. I would have disagreed, but I wouldn't have been like, that's the worst call I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, it's unfortunate. And then to have the game end on a pass interference call like that is always anticlimactic to me personally. But again, by rule of the law, that's a penalty.
Sure.
I'm a DB coach. It's technically a penalty. Trey White got there early. Directly impacted the ability of the receiver to go get the ball. It's a penalty. If you watch it full speed, it does look pretty bang bang. I didn't really love it, but again, like, in today's NFL, it's a penalty. Yep. So terrible way to lose.
Speaking of tantrums, and then Trey White goes and throws one on the sideline.
Yeah, I mean, the game was over at that point, so fair enough. But I'd be pretty mad too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, unfortunate game. Broncos hold on, and you know what? We'll talk about Jarrett Stidham a little bit later here.
Okay.
For our breaking the narrative. For breaking the narrative, I think we'll actually do that.
Okay.
49ers Seahawks. 49ers Seahawks. I thought Seattle was going to win. I didn't know it was going to be this bad, but I think we kind of saw the materialization there of a very banged up 49ers roster. In fact, they were in that game and were able to beat the Eagles the week before. It was pretty miraculous. And clock struck midnight. Cinderella run over. It doesn't really matter how well coached you are when you are. The Jimmies and Joes are very much in Seattle's favor, and the coaching is pretty darn good too. Started off with a bang with Rashid Shaheed. What a pickup by the Seahawks midseason. He has been spectacular for them in the last couple weeks. And 17-0, Niners kind of cut the lead to 17-6, and then it was all Seattle from there. Dave, how good is this Seattle team?
I don't know, if I'm being honest. I don't know how good they are. We haven't seen them for a couple weeks. Obviously they had the bye week. I think it's really easy for Sam Darnold. There was a big question about his injury, his oblique injury. Well, you don't really need your quarterback if you can establish the run game like that, and your special teams is scoring for you. I don't want to sound too disrespectful to San Francisco. It is professional football. Everybody shows up to play, and everyone plays as hard as they can. But they didn't look like a team that belonged there, that had any business being there, whether they showed up ready to play or not. It just didn't look great from the opening whistle, and I think that became very obvious. You make your illusion every week about the clock striking midnight. Well, I think instead of the carriage turning into a pumpkin, the carriage stayed a carriage, but got thrown in Cinderella's face and ran her over.
Yeah. Brock Purdy was running for his life all game long, did make some plays, but you can't sustain drives like that. You can't win football games playing that way. So, not surprised in the slightest. We kind of predicted that. It was a little jarring how big the deficit ended up being at the final whistle, I think, but not surprised. Seahawks move on, and we're going to have a really good game in the NFC Championship game with them and the Rams. Before we get to the Rams, we'll move to the Texans and Pats here. That ugly game on both sides, Dave. Obviously, Patriots coming up on top. Feel like I haven't seen that many turnovers in a game in the NFL, maybe ever. I don't know. I'd have to. I know that doesn't have the record, but
it was ugly.
It was,
yeah. I mean, what it really just came down to for me, Jesus, excuse me, is not just the turnover, but the PFF stat of turnover-worthy plays, which there was at least triple what the official turnover count actually was. Obviously, Stroud threw 4 picks that could have easily have been 7 or 8. Drake May fumbled the ball. Lost a couple fumbles. I think he could have lost double the amount if it weren't for Will Campbell being upright and being able to fall on the ball. Like, it was just ugly. But what it really came down to was the Patriots coaching staff was able to adjust a lot faster and a lot better than Houston was, 1. And 2, for all the hate, I'll put that in as hyperbolic as I can, all the hate that the Patriots receivers get, they were the ones making the plays over Houston's defense, which is a very good defense. I mean, you look at the Pop Douglas touchdown, makes a play with a defender draped all over him. The Kayshon Boutte touchdown, one-handed grab in an absolutely horrible weather game. And then the Stephon Diggs touchdown as well. A guy draped all over his back is still able to come down with the catch. So for all the hate they get, the Patriots receivers showed up today, and they elevated Drake May, which has not been the story for the entire season, but it was a story for Patriots fans this week, and it was fun to watch for me.
Yeah, I was really impressed by Boutte, actually. I thought he had an incredible game. I like, to be fair, I think I've watched probably 6 Patriot games all the way through this year with various games. And then I obviously watch the highlights every week, but I thought personally that was the best game I've ever seen him play. He seems to be developing quite nicely for you guys. So that was probably encouraging for you guys to see in the fan base. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a defense play so well and lose a game. Houston, like Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter made Drake May's life miserable for the majority of that game, but great wherewithal by him to. I didn't think he had happy feet in the pocket at all. I think he just kind of took his licks, which is a big improvement for him because he was kind of known as a little bit of a drifter in his rookie year. So good for him staying in, taking his licks, and making the throws when he needed to. And they did just enough to move on. And we're going to talk a little bit about CJ Stroud here just in a couple moments. We'll circle back uh, for our "What's Wrong With" segment. I personally did not like the design offensively. You'll have a little bit of pushback on that. I feel personally like it's 2026. It's not 2002 anymore. We don't need to run like 15 naked boots a game. I don't know. I think they should have moved the pocket in other ways because their offensive line was struggling. Little maybe some sprint out action with the end actually getting chipped and doubled by a tight end or a running back as well as a tackle. Some more movement passes, maybe some half roll stuff, little run and shoot action. That's pretty easy to install. You got to do something other than naked boots and just having um, uh, defensive. Just having like Caleb Von Chason was free on like 4 different plays, as well as other ends on the Patriots, and I just kind of felt like you're just beating your head against the wall, doing the same things over and over again. Like you need to switch it up, and I feel like they didn't help CJ, and that's not taking away from how he played because he was horrendous. Like I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but I don't think they did a lot to help him out. But you will go over that momentarily right after we talk about the Rams and the Bears and the Bears. Interesting game. I think the weather played a lot into it. Heartbreaking loss for Chicago. Miraculous play by Caleb Williams to throw that touchdown to Cole Kmet. Just unbelievable. And then an unfortunate interception where it kind of looked like DJ Moore quit on the play. Perhaps Caleb made a pretty bad decision as well. Maybe equal blame there to go around. And another devastating loss of Soldier Field for Chicago.
Yeah, I think that the clock strike midnight metaphor you love to use for everything just kind of really plays itself into this game. But like again, damn, what a game! That's the eighth fourth quarter comeback. Obviously, they couldn't pull it off, but what a fucking play by Caleb! Like retreating back 20 yards
Yeah.
and still just like with the flick of his wrist is able to throw the ball 40 yards to Cole Kmet there. I can't say enough great things about Caleb Williams. I love watching him play in the fourth quarter. You know, the first 3 quarters kind of inconsistent, up and down. But if your ceiling is what you're seeing in the fourth quarter, if you can just iron that out and smooth it out through the rest of the game, I think you are really cooking with gas there. Um, it's interesting that you bring up about Moore because one of the interceptions that he threw, Caleb Williams threw last week, was again a lot of people that I looked at, the kind of QB gurus, offensive minds that I watch, put the blame on DJ Moore for running the wrong route because it was like 15 yards from where DJ Moore was, and Caleb throws picks, but he doesn't miss that bad. So I think there might be a conversation of whether he's in the right spots or if he's giving up on things or not seeing the same things as Caleb, and we might need to see a movement there, if not something else.
Yeah. For me, like that's going to be an incomplete pass, best case scenario. But just like it's the playoffs, man. Like you can't just give up on the route,
Yeah.
right? Like he stopped running with the ball in the air and it's directly to you. Like, what are we doing, man? There are a couple of former receivers that kind of push back a little bit on it, and I just think you need to play through to the whistle at any time, but even more so in that moment. I do think, Dave, we kind of talked about how we are worried about how Chicago's receivers weren't going to be able to challenge the Rams a lot because they're not separators. I think we did see that come to fruition in this one. Emmanuel Forbes got hurt, and the Rams didn't really miss a beat. I think the Bears need more separators. That should be something that is top on their list for Caleb. I think Colston Loveland getting hurt late in the game really hurt them down the stretch as well, because he was the one guy who was actually a mismatch and was able to kind of get open, with Adunze being a jump ball possession guy. Burden can separate a little bit, but he's young, and you need some more weapons there, I think, and that was a big difference down the stretch. And when your separator in DJ Moore doesn't seem to be able to get on the same page with your quarterback, that's a problem. And we kind of saw that come to the forefront late in that game. As far as the Rams go, I thought they abandoned the run a little bit early. McVay got a little pass happy, but in typical Rams fashion, they adjusted nicely. And Matt Stafford, that throw to Adams on the sideline. My word. Like, what a throw.
My word. Throw clutching.
What a throw. I saw someone posted the coach's clip of it because I haven't watched the coach's film yet. And just like the throw on the coach's film compared to the broadcast. On the broadcast, it looked like he ripped it in there. On the coach's film, that thing just ripped that in there. Just the velocity on that thing is crazy. At his age, to still be able to throw the ball like that, pretty remarkable. And is one game away from his second Super Bowl appearance.
No, and we're looking at I think the matchup we probably wanted at the beginning of the playoffs. We wanted to see Seattle and the Rams play each other because it always lends to a very exciting game. One that will be worthy of who goes to the Super Bowl.
It certainly will be. One team not going to the Super Bowl anytime soon. It doesn't look like if they don't figure things out at the quarterback position, Dave. We'll circle back now to CJ Stroud for our What's Wrong With segment. What's going on with CJ, Dave? Starting, Dave, with I hate everything about you.
Why do I love you? Okay. So what we kind of alluded to, I'm not so upset about the offensive play design or play calling. I think they didn't adjust very well. But I think the initial kind of game plan was okay. They just had nothing to build off of it. I want to talk about CJ Stroud's fundamentals. And as a former QB coach, this is something that rings near and dear to my heart. So we're going to talk. This is actually his touchdown throw to the out route over top of Marcus Jones to Christian Kirk, I do believe. It might be Hutchinson. We'll find out in a second now, won't we?
I think it was
Kirk. Kirk? Yeah, I thought it was Kirk too. Okay. So what we're going to see first is I hate his drop. Now, I preach that your footwork is your timeline. You should be able to throw from any step in your drop, and your drop determines when and what route you're throwing to. It's your timeline. It's how you're throwing the ball. What Stroud does on his drop is kind of a horse gallop, which I don't like. You can't throw from there if both feet are in the air, and back in kind of when you're first teaching a QB is don't click your heels. The gallop is the next worst thing to get your drop back. And what we're going to see is if we kind of play it and if we stop it right at the drop, or right at the top of his drop here. So he takes the snap, he gallops. You can't throw from like this position, right? It's a kind of a gallopy thing. You can't throw from anywhere. And it tends to lead you to have an overstride and your legs be outside of your frame. So as he starts to cock this ball back, if we can kind of go a little slower to when he's about to release it. Yeah. His legs end up being outside of his frame. If you draw lines, it should be from where his legs are with his body. It should be fairly parallel. Like, obviously, that's tough to do. But if we look at his legs right now, it's a full-on A. Like, his left knee is way outside of his frame. I would call this an overstride and a pretty egregious one, which can tend to balls end up being shorted. And when you're overstriding like this, you also cannot fire from your hips, which I'll get to in some later clips. But the old school way of QB coaching was kind of a pitcher kind of style where you would launch off your back leg onto your front leg and completely do a weight transfer, right? Well, the nowadays QB, what we know now is you want to really twist your hips and fire from your hips, and everything else becomes an engine with it. You can't do that if you're overstriding like this. And that's where the galloping kind of lends you to. And if we also kind of see here, as he's about to throw it, or after he throws it, he doesn't end up with his knee bent. He ends up with his knee kind of straight, which is kind of a fadeaway, and it takes a lot of power off. Even with any sort of rotation, you don't get the velocity, you don't get the accuracy. It's kind of more of a placing rather than a rip. And this ball ends up kind of being a little behind his receiver, and Marcus Jones is almost able to make a play on that ball. Like, this should be an easy touchdown, but it ends up being kind of an almost contested ball. Kirk's still obviously able to make a catch, but just kind of this drop footwork fundamentals I don't like with such a clean pocket. Like, sometimes you got to make do with what you have, but in such a clean pocket, such a rhythm play, I don't like the footwork. I don't like what I'm seeing. I hate everything about it. Not the way I would teach it up. And we're going to see more of how this gets him in trouble later. But I thought it was a good view in a clean pocket to kind of see that. As we move on to I hate everything about you too. Yeah. So we're going to see a very similar thing here. So he's going to do the gallopy drop back. He's going to have a receiver run kind of a dig or a really deep curl at the top of the screen here. So we're going to play it. He's going to gallop. And you can see right as he steps up, a huge overstride. You can see it at the top of his drop. He's already kind of in a bad spot. And then when he shuffles up, he doesn't reset his, like you can see it right here. His feet are way outside of his frame. It's tough to do while I'm sitting down as well. I'm a very physical kind of explainer. And as he shuffles up, his feet just get more and more outside of his frame. It's tough to fire your hips from there. It's tough to be accurate. And that ball ends up being pretty short. Maybe that's by design to kind of lead him away from the defender, but I think that's a very generous take. And that receiver's got to sprint back, fall down to make that catch. And I think just fundamental-wise, I don't like anything about it.
Dave, you have a lot better idea about kind of like old school or just quarterback fundamentals in general, but Stroud looks so old school here in the fact like he's not using his core to throw the ball. It just looks like it's all arm. Like you're saying, it's that kind of pitcher stance, and it just looks like he's kind of torquing from up here, and there's no core rotation at all, which I know is such a huge part of quarterback fundamentals now. It looks like everything's just all arm.
That's a very great point and something that we're going to get to in a later clip. But that's exactly right. If you're not torquing and you're from your hips and you're not creating that kind of whiplash kind of force with your body, and it's just all arm, your legs are outside your frame, like I said, it's just all arm, and you're just kind of forcing it in there. You can't get the velocity, you can't get the accuracy, and that's why this ball ends up being short, inaccurate, and kind of gross, and it's a tough way to live and throw from. So this is exactly what you're talking about. Unfortunately, the sky cam is in the way here, but he's going to throw a fade route to his left, and that is just all arm. Like you already kind of played the clip here. Right here, the feet aren't as overstrident as they were in the previous clips, but there is just zero violence in his hips, and it's just all arm trying to force it in here. Now, this is a very tight window. I think he throws it on time. I'm not one who likes fades to be a 7-step drop, like kind of the old school. So 2-step drop, 3-step, even a 1-step drop, I don't even mind. But a 2-3-step drop is kind of where I like to live with my fade balls. But with the safety over top, you can't really see it here because I'm really focusing on Stroud, and the corner trailing, you need to be able to get velocity on this ball. And where that velocity comes from is violence in your hips. And he just has none of that in his fundamentals right now. The ball ends up being thrown a little bit behind. The trailing DB is then able to catch up, make a diving play. Carlton Davis is a very aggressive physical corner. So I like the read on that, but that ball's got to be in the window with velocity, and you're not going to get that with just this kind of lackadaisical all-arm throw. If this were a layup, fine. Maybe you can just use all-arm and kind of loft it up there, but it's a tight window, and it needs to be thrown with velocity, and definitely not behind the receiver where Carlton Davis can make a play on it. So now we're going to look at a play design. So we're going to have, this is great play design, if I'm honest. Like, this is in the first quarter. What the New England defense likes to do is have their ends file in and then let their linebackers kind of fill and take contain on the outside. They do that a lot. And especially near the goal line, these linebackers are just going to come straight down for the run action. So we're going to have play action with the running back with Woody Marks. Stroud is going to boot to the right, and I'm glad that we can stop it before the play even starts, really. You kind of see number 81 on the left-hand side of the screen. He's going to be running a deep over route and get caught on Robert Spillane, who's put into conflict because he is run defending first. And he, as 81, Jaden Higgins, who I love, is going to run a deep over route. And he's just going to be so wide open, it's upsetting. Everyone bites down on the run. Robert Spillane's in conflict. 81's going to run right by him. Anthony Jennings is not a great pass rusher. I love him. I love him as a run stopper, but he just gets kind of washed out and lost in the sauce of run defense. And if we throw that ball right there, or even if we wait like another couple seconds, that over route is just so wide open. Jalen Hawkins is the safety who's kind of caught in no man's land. I don't think his hips are in position to be able to make a play on that ball, but Stroud just, if he's afraid to throw that, he just kind of drops off to the tight end here. It's a lack of a big play in a playoff game. He gets a couple yards, but eventually gets stopped at the 2-yard line. And I think like this is a touchdown. This is to tie the game at 7. And I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. Like, let's read the play properly and make these easy throws to tie the game. I think this is great play design, if I'm being honest.
I would say you're right.
A couple plays later, still a chance to get in the end zone. We're going to have kind of a switch concept up top. We send a guy in motion. Once again, Higgins is going to run a corner route, and it's going to be so wide open. But he comes off of that read real quick. He has the happy feet, a very clean pocket, and then just kind of throws it to nowhere. And if you have that clean pocket, you can stay on your read side, which he initially looks to the left, but then he just looks like he's kind of getting scared that the defense is right there. But this is a cleaner pocket than I ever dealt with. I don't know about you, playing at a much better school than I did.
I had pockets that looked like this. It's nice and clean. He has lots of room to step up.
He has lots of. He doesn't even need to. His feet are in perfect position at that point, and then he awkwardly steps up, overstriding again. But if he rips that ball right there, right in rhythm, it's a touchdown. Yeah. You tied the game. Like, the play design is great.
Yeah, you're right.
But instead, he just kind of sails it into the end zone, and they end up having to settle for a field goal. And it's kind of these missed opportunities that led to them losing. Play design number 3. This is on the opening throw of the game. So what I kind of talked about with the play design 1 clip, we, as the Patriots, we like to be very aggressive with our D-line and kind of fill in, and then make our our outside linebackers more, or even our middle linebackers be more, off-the-ball linebackers be more contained players, which is great when you have Robert Spillane kind of doing it, or someone more athletic. But we're getting guys like Jelani Tavai, and in the previous clip, and in the previous 2 plays again clip, Anthony Jennings, more run stoppers. They get kind of lost in the sauce. So if you're going to see Jelani Tavai here, look at the play action, and then get lost in the sauce, not knowing where to defend. He gets lost. And this throw needs to be a completion. Like, there's just absolutely no excuse for this. Everyone bites down on the run. We did a great job defending the run. We only allowed like 2.5 yards per carry. You couldn't get the ground game going. So this needs to be your completion. And once again, even though you're on the run, you still need to fire from the hips. You still need to throw with authority and violence. This ball is behind. It's low. It's inaccurate. And it was just a omen of what was to come for C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, and this is great design again because in
Mhm.
this concept, Tavai's in conflict, right? Because he is the edge setter, but he's also the flat player, it looks like. So he's caught in no man's land here, right? And with this action flowing this way, Spillane would technically need to now work over top to get to Stroud, but he's kind of caught in no man's land too on basic boot rules, right? So this is great design again. And this is like, look at how open this is. You're right, Dave. Like, he has 5 yards of space. Like this has to be completion. This has to be completion in high school,
Yep.
let alone in the pro game. This is open, open.
There's just no excuse. He doesn't. And if we, sorry to keep going back to this play, and kind of going back to our previous point, your previous point, as you mentioned, it's all arm. He has
Yeah,
no
look at
rotation in
that.
his body, and he's throwing across his body. Like typically, when you're booting, you want to be attacking the line of scrimmage, everything kind of going towards your target. He keeps his left shoulder in front and kind of throws against his body like this, and that's just a tough way to live. He's kind of fading back as he throws it even. For what purpose? You are under zero duress. You have such a clean naked boot here. This is exactly how you draw it up in the film room. You take your time, get your fundamentals right, set your table, set your platform, and throw it with authority. And this fade away, Caleb can do it, but Caleb is a monster. It's kind of the thing we see out of Patrick Mahomes, who can make this kind of throw. But the fade away, throwing across your body, behind, low, incomplete, it's unacceptable at this level. It's tough to watch. So as we kind of get into the second half here, we see kind of what you were talking about with the naked boots and Caleb Von Chason being a monster. We're going to see the naked boot to Stroud's left, our right, and we're going to see a very similar play where I believe number 19 is going to run the quick out. He boots, Chason's right in his face, but that ball needs to get thrown to the outside shoulder at the very least, or out of bounds so that Carlton Davis can't make a play on it. So he
Dave,
actually
does
does.
Stroud, as Stroud is rolling here, does he
Mm-hmm.
need to get his shoulders turned more?
You want to see his shoulders get turned more. You want to see him not be throwing off of his right foot like that. It
Yeah.
and then it just ends up being behind his receiver. Carlton Davis makes the play on the ball, interception. And you can, I think I cut it before, but you see Stroud's body language. He just ends up holding his helmet like this. He knows he fucked up. This is putting the ball in harm's way for absolutely no reason. It wasn't third down. There was no reason to throw this. So if you're not making plays in the pocket, you're not making plays out of the pocket, all due to poor fundamentals. It's a tough way to live. And my hot take is that I think Houston needs to make a top 100 pick on a QB now because you need someone to either push Stroud or you need to start developing something moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, after seeing that, like he's got to go to the lab and work on his stuff. One thing I will say is a lot of those issues were problems with Trevor Lawrence the last couple of years, and he really made an effort of going to his quarterback coach and getting his things right. And as we saw down the stretch, um, things did get a lot better, and he was able to improve just with like one off season. So hopefully Stroud can do that because I like even though I'm a Jags fan and I don't like the Texans at all, it was fun watching him his rookie year. Super talented player. He had this certain swagger about him that he definitely doesn't have anymore. So maybe some sports psychology in there too for him will be helpful. But again, like the league is better with more good quarterbacks. So it really sucked to see this guy just totally flame out after such a great rookie season where we saw that he could do it, right? So um, the good thing about the fundamentals thing, Dave, as you know, these are all fixable things, right? So and it looks like that's typically what's leading to a lot of his problems. So fixable stuff. So maybe a little bit of a bright side to look on for the Texans if he can get his things straight. But yeah, if he can improve, it's got to be a conversation. I agree.
Yep. Yep.
Absolutely right. For breaking the narrative this week, Dave, again, second week in a row, I'm turning this on you mid show, keeping you on your toes.
Hmm.
Breaking the narrative. I hear a lot of people saying, wow, Broncos are absolutely done. They have no chance. You are a Patriots fan, obviously, but you're also a big Jarrett Stidham guy. I think for breaking the narrative, I think Jarrett Stidham can come in, and if he's safe with the ball, I think he's more talented than the people give him credit for. I think the Broncos actually do have a chance in this game. I don't think the writing's on the wall quite yet.
As much as it pains me to say from a Patriots perspective, you're right. Everyone's writing on the wall. Patriots are going to the Super Bowl. Woo! I would love that, but I wouldn't count Jared Stidham out. I fell in love with him back in his days at Auburn. I was in Palm Springs with my parents, and they were golfing, and I was incredibly sunburned because I'm stupid and I don't want to wear sunscreen in the South California sun. So I had to be stuck indoors, and the only thing on TV was the Auburn spring game. So not even a full game where everything's kind of installed. And I fell in love watching him. I got really excited when we drafted him. I got extremely excited, probably overly excited, the year that Brady retired, or not retired, went to Tampa Bay, because I thought Stidham was going to start for us, and then we signed Cam Newton, and that was a loss of a year for me.
It's really good for 5 weeks.
Really good for 5 weeks. It was, yeah. But I think Stidham is a decent QB. Like, yes, we haven't seen him throw a in-league pass for 2 years, but there's the reason he keeps getting jobs. He's a very solid journeyman backup. He can run the ship without turning the ball over too much. He throws the ball with anticipation. He throws with velocity. He's a smart kid. He's been in multiple offensive schemes. The Broncos just, in general, don't ask Bo Nix to hold the Caleb Williams and the Matt Staffords and elevate their offense to the next level. He just needs to game manage, which is exactly where he needs to be. He's been in the system since day one, since it got here, just as long as Bo Nix has. Obviously, it's a tough situation for him, but it's kind of, as a backup, what you dream coming up. So if he can come in, God forbid he wins this game and takes his team to the Super Bowl, I think he shows why he might win himself a starting level, compete level contract. And maybe the Texans might want to look his way.
Well, as Nick Foles said, and no one knows better than Nick Foles, he tweeted out,
Nope.
Patriots struggle with backups in championship games.
I saw that tweet and I just laughed. I was like, oh, fuck this guy. For 10 years, he's been haunting my dreams. And he comes out and says that.
Man, I will never. But Nick Foles always has a good place in my heart, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, he does. I think this will be a closer game than people anticipate. And I think if Stidham can play at a solid level, I think this will be a good game. There's a good opportunity that Denver actually finds a way to win. Obviously, Dave, the Patriots will be doing everything to prevent that from happening. We will see what happens this weekend. It's going to be a good one. I'm going to be away, so our podcast episode will come out a little bit later next week, but we will get one out. Thank you again, guys, for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed your divisional round weekend. I hope this upcoming divisional championship game weekend is just as good, if not better. And we will see you guys next time. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Nicholas Hauka for David Hollinshead. Thank you for listening.